just getting ready here for the Florida Panthers to get out there for the morning skate. Yeah. So, the city is buzzing. You guys should be here with your Oilers sweaters.
We were just lamenting the fact that we weren't closer. We were just saying that.
What I need more of, Dregs, is Oiler fans in my life at full octane and as smug, arrogant, and cocky as they've been in 40 years. That's what I need more of.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, if the Florida Panthers get the job done tonight, then clearly that'll have snuffed out that sort of storyline coming in. But hey, you can't argue with momentum, though, right? And the Oilers have earned that. They've taken it away in Game 4 and in Game 5, but it's a different beast when you're facing elimination for a third straight game.
Yeah, and you wonder for the Florida Panthers, obviously the one game they are no good, and they basically admit as much. Paul Maurice was very complimentary of his team after Game 5 the other night. How much of that is lip service, and how much of that is the Florida Panthers truly thinking that 5-on-5 and in the later stages of that game, they were just fine with their effort and their production?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not lip service because Paul is a very honest guy, especially when he addresses the media pre and post game. I mean, we saw a different demeanor in his approach to the post game after losing Game 5 the other night. It comes down to the basics here. You know, Leon Draisaitl in his media availability a short while ago, he talked about how he hasn't played to his standard. You know, he talked about how he hasn't found his legs in this series yet, and it feels like he's going to need to do that to extend the series tonight. Well, that applies to the Florida Panthers. So Maurice knows that they've got to be way more disciplined in Game 6 than they were in Game 5. You can't keep losing the special teams battles, and they have. The other night, Edmonton goes 2 for 5, 3 for 3 on the penalty kill. Connor Brown gets that shorthanded goal. They've given up 2 shorthanded goals in back-to-back games. So those are the things that they know they can clean up, and they know that they can change, but they need some help. It's not just the details. Like, Sam Reinhart's got to figure out a way to put the puck in the net. Sam Bennett had good looks the other night. He's got to find a way to put the puck in the net. Barkov, go down the list. Verhaeghe is, he's basically been a ghost in the last 3-4 games of this series. So there's lots of positives to look at when you're looking at the Florida Panthers and their approach to Game 6, but it's come now down to execution. All of those guys have got to find a way if Florida's going to hoist the Stanley Cup.
And somehow the Oilers have crawled back into this series without a dominant Leon Draisaitl, whose playoff numbers have been superlative his entire career and really sort of overshadowed McDavid's production in the postseason even. What are you seeing or feeling around Draisaitl? I don't think I've seen him shoot the puck like he normally does for a long time here. Yeah. Can't be right to me. But is there still a Draisaitl game available, or is this just all you're going to get is 60 out of 100 right now?
Well, no, I mean, the expectation from Leon and from his teammates and from the coaching staff is that he's going to have a big Game 6, and it feels like he needs to be able to do that. But, what you're seeing, I think we're all seeing. I mean, take a look at his faceoffs. He's getting beat off draws where normally he wouldn't. And in fact, we've seen him get cleaned in a few opportunities, off the draw. So the sense is he's got some sort of hand injury, something that's bothering him. He's not going to disclose that at this point, and nor is he going to use it as an excuse. As I said earlier, he just flat out said, look, I got to be better. I haven't reached my standard, and we're going into Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final here. But there's an element of expectation from the coaches, from Leon, and from everyone around that he's going to have a big night, and it kind of feels like he needs to.
What's your read on Bobrovsky? Because we're no longer trotting out the Oilers. Bobrovsky's in their head. Now it feels like it's maybe the other way around, where they've solved him and they're finding a lot of ways to beat him now. Is that just the circumstances, or has he's been so good? It's so hard. It takes one game to put all that to rest, but has he lost a bit of that edge in your mind?
I think he has. I think that's fair. Noodles did a pack the other day after Game 5 where he showed Sergei Bobrovsky with his bobbles in Game 5. I mean, we all saw him make that save, but he actually whiffed with the paddle trying to stop the puck, and thankfully got the pad down to make what should be, by his standards, a routine save. But, how much of this should we be giving credit to the Oilers and their attack? One thing that's become evident to me is that Florida is really having trouble managing the speed of the Edmonton Oilers. And when you attack off the rush the way that they do, I mean, it creates second chances and third opportunities and all of that. And we're seeing more commitment from Edmonton to get on the puck after Sergei Bobrovsky makes that save. So he's human, but he's also got a resume that shows he can steal a night. And if he does that tonight, then this series will end.
You mentioned Reinhart, and the reason I bring it up, I think it was yesterday, the day before, we talked about it. Verhaeghe and certainly Reinhart have been eerily quiet. And Verhaeghe, he's been that money guy. Now, a game winner or a series ender, that's kind of his forte. He could pull that out tonight. But even just watching the body language of Reinhart on that Bouchard goal, he was on the penalty kill. He didn't get out to the point. His gap was no good.
Yeah.
He looks like a shell of himself. He doesn't look close to the guy that scored 57 right now. Is there injury there? Is it the stage? What's your read there?
Yeah, I would submit that there wouldn't be many players on either side that aren't playing with something. But I agree with you. He's not noticeable, and it's not just because he's not scoring at the rate that he did in the regular season. That's pretty clear. It's just, he's missed on some opportunities. So is Carter Verhaeghe. So is Sam Bennett. Go down the list. But I also liked what Paul Maurice did in the second half of that hockey game with the adjustments that he made. And he moved Verhaeghe off that line just to try and freshen things up. That seemed to get Matthew Tkachuk engaged, right? And that was his best game of this series, especially from the midpoint of the game on for Matthew Tkachuk. But again, we're talking about one player. Reinhart, no matter what he's got going on, he's going to have to be a factor. All of those guys that Florida was able to lean on over the course of this postseason, certainly in the regular season, they want to hoist that Stanley Cup, be it tonight or in Game 7. Those guys are going to have to find a way to contribute. Maybe it does start with Reinhart, no different than what we talked about Leon Draisaitl on the Oilers side of things.
From the Oilers side, they've done some winning. You don't generally change a winning lineup. If Evander Kane is close, does he go in, or have we maybe seen the last of Kane?
I don't believe that Evander Kane's going to play tonight. I don't. Information I received this morning was that, look, again, every player is going through treatments, being medicated for a variety of different issues, and Kane is among those. He had a good practice yesterday. They liked the way he looked in his first full practice in a long, long time. So I think there was encouraging signs, and that's why there was at least some hint or expectation that he could be an option in Game 6. What I was told either yesterday or this morning, the pain meds that normally have worked didn't take, and I don't think he's playing. And I'm okay with that too, right? I mean, the Oilers, without Evander Kane, have played well. So, even if he had been close, do you bring him into the mix at 60% or less and take out Derek Ryan, who's been an effective player for the Oilers, especially defensively up front? Or do you stand pat with a winning lineup? But I think it's injury that's going to keep Kane out of this series moving forward.
That's about as much Oilers stuff as we can take. I think we've done pretty well. Jacob Markstrom is a New Jersey Devil. Your thoughts on the return? It's a first and a player, which that's what people wanted, except the first isn't this year and it's not 10th, and the player maybe isn't as sexy. But what do you think of the work that Craig Conroy was able to do here?
I think it was good work. I think this is a good deal for both teams here. And I know that's cliche, but I believe that. I think that Tom Fitzgerald of the New Jersey Devils finally realized that Calgary wasn't going to give this guy away. I think that the original offer was a player from New Jersey and a conditional draft pick, and maybe as low as a third-round draft pick, and that just wasn't going to cut it. That wasn't going to get it done. And look, there were other options. We all know that Markstrom wanted to go to New Jersey. He had waived to go to New Jersey. The deal fell apart, but he was still willing and wanted to go to New Jersey Devils. But I was told by good sources that he was intrigued by the idea of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it didn't get to a place where Conroy and Brad Treliving had reached an agreement on what a package might look like. Obviously, there would have been a hefty salary retention. There would have been a first-round draft pick. Probably a Toronto Maple Leaf defenseman would have been involved in that transaction. But then you're taking the gamble a little bit. Okay, are we sure that Markstrom is going to waive? And I don't think that anybody was sure of anything at that point. And by the way, it's not like Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils were just focused on Jacob Markstrom, and that was it. He was the goaltender that they wanted. He was priority one. But I also know Fitzy was talking to the Boston Bruins about Linus Ullmark, and he was looking at some other goalie options. So I think Conroy and the Calgary Flames were wise to pull the trigger on it at this point.
Any sense of where this deal was relative to the one that allegedly fell apart in February? And then also, while you got a moment, just a thought on Kevin Ball, what he is and what he could be.
Well, Kevin Ball, if you want to start there, I mean, he is a mountain of a human being. Like, this guy is large, and you don't know what he could be. I mean, the projections, according to the Flame sources that I talked to yesterday, are that he has the capability of potentially being a top 4 guy, a 4-5 guy. But as we also know, NHL defense take a lot longer to develop normally. You look at somewhere in that 200 to 250, maybe upwards of 300 NHL games played before you know what you have. But they're happy with Kevin Ball. They feel like he was certainly a better player than the player that was originally suggested as part of this trade. But this deal wasn't going down with the Devils without a first-round draft pick being attached to it. And I would also submit that, look, Kevin Ball isn't going to be a game changer for the Calgary Flames anytime soon, but he's a serviceable defenseman. I think that's an area, though, that Conroy and the Flames are going to work hard on improving here in the days and the weeks ahead.
I guess, and so now for teams like Toronto, and I know Ottawa was kind of in that mix.
Yeah.
So where is it? Ullmark, I guess. Who's in that? I think I read this morning. Columbus says they're going with Merzlikins. I don't know
they
what
like
now.
Tarasov too.
Yeah, and I don't know where that puts Saros. It never really felt like Saros was going to leave, but I guess the goalie market now, as you see,
it's a tough one. Yeah, the goalie market is a challenging one right now. I'm told that Kevin Epp, who represents UC Saros, is going to meet with Barry Trotz in Vegas. So that's just continuing the negotiation on what a contract extension with Nashville would look like. Unless Linus Ullmark has a change of heart, I don't think he wants to come into Canada. So that would take Ottawa and Toronto, obviously, out of the equation. So then it gets thinner, doesn't it? Tristan Jarry rumors are out there. What's going to happen with Casey DeSmith with his contract? Georgiev rumors are out there. Bennington and the St. Louis Blues, those trade rumors are out there. Then you look at some of the other pieces. There's been speculation around Laurent Brossoit. Could he be a good fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of not.
Yeah.
Well, how about the goalie here? Anthony Stolarz with the Florida Panthers. This guy's legit, but they're not Jacob Markstrom. So Ottawa needs a goalie upgrade. Korpisalo and Anton Forsberg did not get the job done last year. Toronto was really hungry for a goalie upgrade. Well, they're not likely going to get that, so maybe they do try and push Joseph Woll a little bit more, and they bring in a 1A, which would be somebody like Stolarz or Larry Brossoit.
As Noodles would call him,
little Noodles
Larry.
Sliding in. I see that.
A little Larry.
We know
that was it. That was a nod to Noodles. That's what that was.
Dregs, we could talk about it next week, but I am curious the fallout of this. Whether Edmonton wins or loses, they don't have a GM for next year. Whether Florida wins or loses, Montour and Reinhart don't have contracts. There's certainly a lot of dead cap next year in Edmonton. They're going to try to make some moves. I'm curious to see how it goes, and I guess Dean will check in next week.
Yeah, I guess just. That would be the thoughts on this series. It's been watching McDavid. We truly have been watching some of the greatest stuff ever. Has he got enough to continue to drag? He's not just dragging Florida. He's dragging the Oilers. He's dragging everybody with him right now. Has he got enough left?
I think he does. What we've seen from Connor McDavid throughout the postseason, but in the last couple of games, is obviously next level stuff. 4 points in Game 4. Followed up by 4 points in Game 5. I don't care. I'm not a voter for the Conn Smythe. I don't have a ballot. I think he's got a lock on this thing. I do. Win or lose. I think McDavid.
Bobrovsky shutout's the only thing that stops him. Is that fair?
Maybe, but he's just. I'm going to name drop here. I talked to Scott Niedermayer yesterday, and we were talking about a lot of different things. But the one thing that he mentioned was when you've got a perfect balance between will and skill. In an elite level player, you've got something unique almost unicornish. And that's what you had in Mario Lemieux back in the heyday. Wayne Gretzky, obviously. Sidney Crosby, absolutely, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Connor McDavid right now in this Stanley Cup final. So I think he's more than capable of doing something special here on home ice and dragging this series back into Florida for a Game 7.
All right, fella. We'll let you get to it. Appreciate you. This is a busy time for you. I know we'll hook up next week at some point. Obviously, we know the July 1 and all that, but we'll get you in next week.
Thanks, Drex.
Well, we'll have lots to talk about next week, guys.
No kidding. No kidding. Be careful up there. There he goes. Darren Dreger.
Get stabby up there.
TSN and Hockey Insider joining us here.
There's a certain outcome tonight where that city gets a little dark. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.